I grew up in a town so small it didn't even have a gas station that stayed open past 9. Route 190 was the only real road cutting through the hills, the kind truckers used when they didn't want to pay tolls. Everyone in town knew the rule: you don't drive that road after midnight. Some said it was haunted, others said it was cursed, but nobody really agreed on why, just that you shouldn't. I thought it was all small-town superstition. My dad used to say, rules like that are made by people who've never had to work a night shift. So when my new job at the lumber mill kept me late one Thursday, I took 190 home without a second thought. Midnight came and went while I was still on that stretch of road, the radio humming static, and the forest pressing in on both sides. It started with the fog. Not the thin, harmless kind you get after rain. This was thick, milky, like the air itself had weight. The headlights barely reached 10 feet ahead. I slowed down, leaned forward, squinting. Then I saw it, a wooden sign nailed to a leaning post on the shoulder. Turn back before the clock strikes 1. I laughed out loud. The thing looked old, maybe something from a Halloween prank years ago. But then the digital clock on my dashboard flicked from 12:39 to 12:40, and I swear the car temperature dropped 10 degrees. Somewhere ahead, I saw brake lights flash. Just 2 quick pulses, red, then gone. No other cars had been behind me for miles, and there were no houses out here. I kept driving slower now, the fog swallowing sound. Then my headlights caught something on the asphalt, a shape sprawled across the center line. I thought it was a deer until it moved. It stood up. A man, or something that looked like one, facing away from me. His clothes hung soaked, heavy, like he'd been standing in rain that wasn't falling. When my lights hit him, he turned, and I saw his face for just a second. Pale, blank, like a photo overexposed to white. His mouth opened wide, wider than should be possible, and the car engine sputtered, choking like it was drowning in the air. I don't remember deciding to drive around him, but I must have, because the next thing I knew, I was flooring it through the fog, praying I wouldn't hit anything. The radio turned itself on. Not static this time, but a woman's voice whispering something over and over. I could only make out one word between the hiss and crackle. Wait. When I finally burst out of the fog, it was 1:07 a.m. My car coasted into town on fumes, the engine still making that wet gasping sound. I parked in front of my apartment, shaking so bad I'd dropped my keys twice. The next morning, I checked the road again on my phone. Route 190 was closed. Apparently there'd been a fatal accident overnight. One vehicle, a man in his 40s. No identification found. The photo in the article showed his wrecked pickup under a collapsed sign. The sign said, "Turn back before the clock strikes 1."
For 2 days, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still sitting in the back seat of my car. I'd catch a glimpse of something in the mirror, just a shape, a darker patch of shadow, and when I turned, it would vanish. I stopped sleeping. My coworkers at the mill joked that I looked like I'd seen a ghost. They weren't wrong. Saturday morning, I drove out to the diner by the highway. The kind of place where old men in ball caps know every rumor before it hits the paper. I ordered coffee and asked the waitress, half joking, if she'd heard anything about the crash on 190. Her face changed immediately. "You shouldn't ask about that," she said. She told me the guy's truck had been found near mile marker 13, smashed into a tree, the front end folded like paper. The weird part? No blood, no body. Just a jacket and a driver's license on the seat. The name was Harold Denton. Local man disappeared 20 years ago this week. I laughed, but it came out shaky. Maybe someone stole his old license. The waitress didn't laugh.
Harold ran off that road same night his wife died. Folks said she called him before she crashed, said he was already dead when he picked up. That stuck with me the rest of the day. The way she said, when he picked up, like he'd answered from somewhere he shouldn't have. That night, I couldn't help myself. I drove back out there. Not all the way, just up to the turnoff near mile marker 10. The fog hadn't come in yet, and the woods were still. I left the engine running, stepped out and walked to the edge of the trees. You could smell the road tar cooling in the night air. Somewhere far off, a coyote howled. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered before thinking. At first it was static, then a faint, wet breathing sound, and over it, the same woman's voice I'd heard on the radio that night. He's still waiting. I dropped the phone, heart slamming against my ribs. When I picked it up, the car was gone. No number in the log. I turned to get back in the car, and there it was again, maybe 50 feet ahead. Headlights, old ones, yellow and dim, an engine idling softly in the dark. I blinked, and they were gone. By the time I made it home, my dashboard clock read 12:59 a.m. Then it flicked to 1, and for just a second, the radio came on by itself and whispered, "You shouldn't have come back."
The next morning, I told myself it was just exhaustion, that maybe I had imagined the call, the lights, all of it. But when I checked my phone, the call log wasn't just empty. It had erased everything. Not just last night, every call I'd made for the past week. That's when I knew something was wrong, in a way I couldn't rationalize anymore. I went down to the county records office on Main, one of those sun-faded buildings that still smelled like old carpet and carbon paper. The clerk on duty was a guy named Rick, mid-50s, always wearing the same plaid shirt and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. I asked if he could help me find anything about a man named Harold Denton, supposedly killed on Route 190 about 20 years ago. Rick frowned when I said the name. "Yeah, I remember him. His wife, too." He rifled through a drawer and pulled out a yellowed newspaper clipping, smoothed it with his palm. The headline read, "Local couple die hours apart. Strange circumstances on Route 190. Apparently Harold's wife, Deborah Denton, had been found dead in her home at exactly 12:47 a.m., apparent heart failure. Witnesses claimed Harold was on the road at that same time, miles away. But here's the thing. His truck had been discovered still idling, headlights on, and his watch had stopped at 12:47. "Never found his body," Rick said. "Whole search party combed the woods for a week. My uncle was out there. Said he heard someone calling for help from inside the fog. They followed the voice till dawn, but it just kept moving farther away." I didn't say anything. My stomach was cold. On the way back to my car, I passed a bulletin board covered in missing person flyers. One caught my eye. A teenage girl, missing since last month. The location? Route 190, near mile marker 13. I counted 3 others pinned beneath it. Same road, same section. That night, I couldn't resist. I drove back again. I told myself I just needed to see it in daylight, but I got lost in thought and time slipped away. By the time I reached the highway, it was already 12:42. The fog rolled in faster this time, like it had been waiting for me. I pulled over at the 13th marker. The same sign was still there, nailed crooked to the post. "Turn back before the clock strikes 1. The second hand on my dashboard clock ticked to 12:47. The fog moved, not drifted, moved like something breathing inside it. My headlights caught a figure up ahead. Not the man this time. A woman, barefoot, hair dripping like she'd just come from water.
She lifted her face toward me and whispered something that I couldn't hear over the engine. I rolled down the window just enough to catch her words. "Tell him to stop calling me." Then she was gone. The radio came alive again, and I swear it wasn't random static this time. It was a voice, his voice. "She won't answer. She never does. Please, can you tell her I'm still here?" And over that, faint but clear, came the chime of a clock, striking 1. Every light in my car went out.
When the lights went out, everything, engine, headlights, dashboard, died at once. The silence was instant and absolute, like the world had been sucked dry of sound. Even the crickets stopped. I sat gripping the wheel, staring into black fog so thick I could see nothing but my own reflection in the windshield. Then, from somewhere ahead, came the crunch of gravel under slow, deliberate footsteps. I don't remember deciding to move, but I did. I got out and slammed the door behind me, fumbling for my phone flashlight. The beam cut through maybe a few feet of mist, just enough to show the white stripe down the center of the road. The footsteps had stopped. That's when I noticed something strange. The air smelled like gasoline and wet leaves, exactly like it had that first night. And when I looked back toward my car, it wasn't there. Not gone, just different, older. The paint dull, the license plate half rusted, the windshield cracked across the center. My brain tried to tell me I was looking at another car that just looked like mine, but the sticker on the bumper, the faded red one from my high school, was there. I took a step back. That's when headlights flared behind me, flooding the fog with harsh white. I turned, shielding my eyes. Another car was approaching slowly, the engine coughing like it was struggling to stay alive. I waved my arms, shouting, but the car didn't slow down. It passed right through me. Cold washed over me like falling into ice water. My breath caught. My body went numb for a second. When I turned to look, the other car was gone, and my car was clean again, exactly as it should be. That's when I saw the sign, not on the roadside, but standing right in the middle of the asphalt ahead, blocking my lane. The same crooked plank with the same words, "Turn back before the clock strikes 1." Except when I looked at the dashboard clock, it already said 1:06 a.m. I floored it, the tires screamed, and the fog tore open around me as I sped forward. But the road, God, the road just kept going. Every turn looked the same, every hill, every tree. After 10 minutes, 20, 30, I realized I was passing the same mile marker over and over. Mile 13. No matter how fast I drove, I always came back to the same stretch of road, the same dead air, the same ghostly glow from the fog. And then the voice again. "You can't leave after 1." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against every instinct, I answered. It was him. "I told her I'd wait. You saw her, didn't you?" I didn't speak. He laughed, wet, broken, like gurgling water. "You'll see her again. They always do." Then the call cut off, and the road ahead went black. When I opened my eyes again, the sun was up, birds chirping, my car parked neatly in front of my apartment building. The odometer read 0 miles traveled. But there was something sitting on the passenger seat that hadn't been there before. A small, water-stained photograph, a man and a woman smiling in front of an old house. On the back,
written in fading ink, Harold and Deborah Denton, 1998. And underneath, scrawled in newer handwriting, mine, though I swear I didn't write it. 1:13 a.m.
I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The photo sat on my kitchen table under the yellow light, the ink shimmering faintly like it was still wet. Every time I looked away, I swore the faces changed, sometimes smiling, sometimes not. By morning, I'd convinced myself I needed to do something. Go to the police, maybe. But what would I say? "Hi, officer, I think I accidentally time-traveled and spoke to a dead guy through my car radio?" Yeah, no. Instead, I posted a message on a local forum. Nothing dramatic, just a casual question. Anyone ever had weird stuff happen driving Route 190 after midnight? It took about 5 minutes for the replies to pour in. Most were jokes. "Yeah, the weird thing is you don't make it to work on time," or "only thing haunting that road is potholes." But one caught my eye. Username Larkspur87 wrote, "Don't go past mile marker 13. My brother didn't come back." I messaged them immediately. They responded within minutes. Their brother, Nate, had been driving home from a night shift 3 years ago. Around 12:50, his phone pinged a location share to his sister, mile marker 13. Then nothing. No crash, no trace, no car. Search teams found tire tracks that disappeared into the woods, but no signs of impact. When they checked the timestamp on his last photo, it was exactly 1:13 a.m. That number again. I asked if she still had the photo. She sent it. My stomach turned cold. It showed the fog-covered road, faint outlines of trees, and something in the middle of the lane. A wooden post with a sign nailed to it. "Turn back before the clock strikes 1." I nearly dropped my phone. She messaged again before I could reply. "You saw it, too. It finds the ones who look for it." I closed the chat and threw the phone onto the couch. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely breathe. That night, I noticed the reflection again, the faint shape in my car window, even though the car was parked outside, empty. I tried to ignore it. I went to bed early, pulled the curtains tight. But at exactly 1:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It buzzed again, this time with a voicemail notification. My chest felt tight as I pressed play. Static. Then a man's voice, quiet, almost pleading. "You saw her. Tell her I'm still waiting." And under it, another voice, softer, closer. "You should have turned back." I deleted the message, turned off my phone, and sat in the dark until sunrise. The next morning, I went outside to my car. The passenger window was fogged from the inside, though I hadn't driven it in days. Someone, or something, had traced words with a finger on the glass. "Mile 13 calls you back."
We met in the parking lot of a closed-down diner just off the highway. It was early evening, sky heavy and low, like it knew what we were about to do. "Call me Lark," she said when she got out of her car. She looked tired, not in a normal way, but hollow-eyed, like someone who hadn't had a dreamless sleep in months. She clutched a silver locket and kept glancing over her shoulder at the trees. We agreed on one thing from the start. If anything felt wrong, we'd turn around before midnight, no matter what. She had a folder with her, yellowed police reports, newspaper clippings, and even photos of her brother Nate. One of them stopped me cold. It was a selfie he'd taken in his car on the night he vanished. There was something reflected in the rear window, something that looked like a pale face staring in from the dark. He didn't notice it, she said, not until I pointed it out a week later. He thought it was fog. We left the diner just after 11. The road was empty all the way up to the highway. Once we passed mile marker 10, the world started to go quiet. The crickets faded first, then the wind. My headlights seemed to dim without reason. At 12:03, the fog started. We rolled down our windows to listen. The air had that same wet gasoline smell. Locke turned to me, voice shaken. "Do you hear it?" I did. Faint through the static hum of the night, something like a voice, far away, echoing. It was saying her name. We stopped at mile 13. The marker leaned sideways now, its metal rusted to near collapse. Beside it the sign stood again, "Turn back before the clock strikes 1." Lark got out first, clutching the locket. I followed, my flashlight beam cutting through the fog in a narrow tunnel of light. "Maybe it's him," she whispered. "Maybe he's stuck here." She held up her phone, recording, calling her brother's name into the mist. For a second I thought it was working. Something moved, shapes shifting in the fog. Then a sound rose up from the woods, a car engine. Ours. We turned back, and both vehicles were running, headlights on, doors open. The radios were on too, though neither of us had touched them. They were whispering the same thing in unison. "Stay, stay, stay." I bolted for my door. Lark didn't move. She was staring at something just ahead in the fog. "Nate," she breathed. I followed her gaze and froze. A man stood there, dripping wet, clothes hanging heavy, face pale and blank. He looked almost normal until his head tilted, sharp and mechanical, like a puppet string pulled too hard. "Don't!" I shouted. "Get back in the car!" But she was already walking toward him. I ran, grabbed her arm, and she screamed, not at me, but at him. "Why won't you come home?" The man's mouth opened. No sound came out, but my phone in my pocket buzzed violently. When I pulled it out, the screen showed one word over and over, flashing, 113, 113, 113. Then everything went white. When I came to, I was on the side of the road alone. The fog was gone. Lark's car was still there, driver's door open, headlights dimming. Her locket lay on the asphalt, chain snapped. My dashboard clock read 1:14 a.m. Lark was gone. By dawn, I was sitting in the sheriff's office, trying to explain what had happened without sounding completely insane. The deputy behind the desk, an older man with sunburned cheeks and a name tag that read D. Holloway, just stared at me while I spoke. "So you're saying she disappeared? Into fog?" I nodded, my throat dry. "Yes, she walked toward a man on the road, someone who shouldn't have been there. Then there was this flash. When it cleared, she was gone." He didn't write anything down, just sighed, leaned back, and said quietly, "You should have turned back." For a moment I thought I'd misheard, but no, those were his exact words, the same words I'd heard whispered through the radio. When I asked what he meant, he didn't answer right away. He got up, went into the records room, and came back holding a thin file folder sealed with tape so old it had gone brown. He slid it across the desk toward me. "You didn't hear this from me," he said. Inside were photocopies of missing person reports. The first was dated 2001. Name, Melissa Denton. I froze. "Denton?" I said. "Like..." "Yeah," he nodded. "Harold and Deborah's daughter." Melissa had vanished at age 19. Her last known location? Route 190 near mile marker 13. The next page was a witness statement, written in messy blue pen. Saw her standing on the road, waving for help. Fog came in fast. When it cleared, she was gone. Only thing left was her locket. I felt my stomach drop. I pulled my phone from my pocket and showed him the photo I'd taken of Lark's locket, lying on the asphalt. "This one?" I asked. He looked, then slowly nodded. "It looks about the same." "You said her name was Lark?" "Yeah, real name's Laura, I think. Laura Parker." He ran the name through the computer, the screen glowing cold light across his face. After a minute, he frowned. "No record of any Laura Parker in this county. No missing person, no license, nothing." I stared at him. "That's not possible. I met her. I saw her brother's photo, her car, everything." He closed the folder carefully. "People think that road just takes lives, but it doesn't. It trades them. Sometimes it gives one back." "What does that mean?" He hesitated and then said something I'll never forget. "Harold Denton's body washed up in the river 6 years ago, perfectly preserved. Same clothes he went missing in. Time of death still said 12:47 a.m. I left the station with the file still in my hands. My mind was buzzing. That night, I spread everything across my kitchen table, the photo, the reports, the locket. My phone lit up again, though I'd put it on silent. A new message. From Lark. Last seen, 1:13 a.m. Text. "He said you'd help me find my way back." And then another, seconds later. "Check the river." The message came at 12:01 a.m. I told myself I wasn't going to go, that I'd delete it, block the number, and finally let the whole nightmare fade. But curiosity is a kind of gravity. You can fight it for a while, but eventually it pulls you back. By 12:30, I was driving again, headlights carving tunnels through the dark. The fog hadn't formed yet, but the air carried that same smell of wet earth and gasoline, like a memory waiting to repeat itself. The river wasn't far, about 5 miles off Route 190, down a narrow dirt road that looked like no one had driven it in years. I parked where the road ended and followed the sound of water. The moon was bright enough to make the current shimmer like liquid glass. That's when I saw it. A car door, half buried in silt at the edge of the bank, silver, just like mine. The rest of the vehicle was submerged in the shallows, headlights flickering faintly underwater, like eyes still open. I stepped closer, and the cold hit me. Sharp, chemical, wrong. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "Lark. You're close." I turned my flashlight toward the current. Something moved against it, drifting toward me. It was a photograph, waterlogged, curling at the edges. When I fished it out, I recognized the faces instantly. Harold and Deborah Denton, smiling in front of that old house again. But now there was a third figure standing behind them, blurred but visible. Lark. The picture trembled in my hand. My phone buzzed one more time. Lark. I tried to bring him back. The road took me instead. My throat closed up. "Where are you?" I whispered into the dark. The answer came as movement, ripples widening on the surface of the river. A shape rising from the water. For a second I thought it was a trick of the current, until it stood upright, clothes dripping, hair hanging over its face. "Lark?" The figure tilted its head, just like the man had. Water ran down its chin. The moonlight caught something around its neck, the broken chain of a locket. She raised her hand and pointed downriver. "He's still waiting," she said, voice soft and gurgling, like her lungs were full of water. Then she sank, no struggle, just vanished into the current. The fog came rolling in from the trees immediately after, swallowing the riverbank whole. I ran back to the car, but the road was gone. Every direction led to water. For a moment I thought I heard the hum of an engine under the current, a car trying to start. When the fog thinned, it was 1:13 a.m. again. My car was back on the main road, parked neatly at mile marker 13. The locket sat in the passenger seat. Inside was a photo of me. When I woke up, my phone was already recording. The voice memo app was open, timer running. The display read, recorded at 1:13 a.m. I didn't remember starting it. The playback was faint, warped by static. My own voice was on it, whispering like I was half asleep. "Don't stop. Keep driving. He's behind you." Then a woman's voice cut in. Lark's, I think, but layered, like two versions of her speaking over each other. "It only needs one more minute." That was all. I spent the whole morning trying to make sense of it. The files from the sheriff's office were still on my table, and I noticed something I'd missed before. Each of the disappearances was time-stamped exactly between 1:12 and 1:13 a.m. Harold's truck, Melissa's car, Nate's phone, and now Lark. The 13th minute. It hit me then. What if the road wasn't cursed? Not exactly. What if it was alive, feeding on that single moment between one day and the next, the minute no one remembers crossing? That afternoon I drove back to the sheriff's office, but Deputy Holloway was gone. The young woman at the desk said he'd taken sick leave 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks? He'd been the one to hand me the file 2 nights ago. I drove home fast, heart pounding the whole way. When I pulled into my driveway, I noticed something wrong. My car's odometer showed I'd driven 0 miles, again. And on the windshield, written in condensation, were 3 words. "You owe time." That night, I didn't fight it anymore. I set an alarm for 12:45, packed a flashlight, the photo and the locket, and drove to Route 190. The fog was already waiting for me, curling low over the asphalt, like breath. I stopped the car at mile marker 13 and turned off the engine. For a moment, there was nothing. Then the radio clicked on by itself. "You came back," the man's voice said. Harold's, I think. "You're the only one who ever does." "I just want to end it," I told him. The radio hissed. "You can't end it. You can only trade it." The second hand on the dashboard ticked to 1:12. The fog thickened, and I saw them, silhouettes moving along the shoulder, one by one. A man, a woman, a young girl, Lark. All walking toward me in the mist. Their eyes were hollow light. "It needs someone to keep the minute," Harold said. "That's how the road stays alive. That's how it remembers." I reached for the ignition, but the keys wouldn't turn. The car's clock flicked to 1:13. Every sound vanished, except the heartbeat in my ears. Then the radio whispered, very softly, "Trade accepted." And everything went dark. A year passed, or maybe it was longer. Time feels slippery now, like it doesn't stick to me the way it used to. Sometimes I think I left something behind on that road, part of my mind, maybe my life. Other nights, I wonder if I never really left at all. They widened Route 190 last spring. repaved the asphalt, took down the old mile markers, and replaced them with shiny green ones. The town says it's safer now, that the accidents were just bad luck and fog. They don't know the fog doesn't care about signs. I still live nearby, in a small trailer overlooking the river. My days are quiet, but every so often, around midnight, I hear tires on wet pavement outside, the low hum of an engine slowing down, and I know someone new has found their way onto the road. Last night, it happened again. The sound came just after 12. I stepped outside barefoot, the gravel cold under my feet, and saw headlights cutting through the mist. A pickup truck, maybe 20 years old, slowing near the turnoff to the old stretch. I wanted to yell, to wave them down, to tell them to turn back, but my voice caught in my throat. All that came out was a whisper. "Don't stop." The truck didn't listen. It turned onto the old road. I felt it immediately. The air changed, pressure dropping, the night going still. The minute had begun. By instinct, I got in my car. The key turned easily this time. The radio came to life without me touching it, static, breathing softly like lungs. "It's starting again," said a voice I hadn't heard since that night. "Harold, the road remembers you. It needs a keeper." The fog rolled in thick, swallowing the headlights ahead of me. The truck's taillights flickered once, twice, and then there was nothing but white. When it cleared, the road was empty. I parked where the truck had vanished. Mile marker 13 was gone now, but I knew exactly where it had stood. The dirt was disturbed, fresh tread marks disappearing into the woods. And there, on the center line, sat a new sign. The paint was still wet. "Turn back before the clock strikes 1." Underneath, written in jagged black letters, a line that hadn't been there before. "Caretaker." I stared at it for a long time until I realized the ink wasn't paint at all. It was handwriting. Mine. Somewhere deep in the fog, an engine coughed to life again. A new driver, another chance, another loop. I got back in my car, radio whispering softly. "Keep the minute." The clock on my dashboard ticked to 1:13 a.m. I smiled without meaning to, eyes burning in the pale light. I said quietly, "Welcome to Route 190. Drive safe." The fog swallowed everything, and the road began again.